Walking together, a collaboration between a visually impaired person and a sighted guide. This video is directed especially at persons with visual impairments and their families, friends and co-workers, as well as professionals who occasionally encounter people with visual impairments. For a person with a visual impairment, using a sighted guide is often a good approach. It's a safe and efficient way to get around, particularly in unfamiliar surroundings or if there are temporary changes to familiar areas. When a visually impaired person walks with a sighted guide, it's convenient to have a common understanding of how to do things and how to handle doors and steps, etc. This video provides a brief demonstration of basic approaches that it will be convenient for both parties to know. These approaches are commonly referred to as sighted guide techniques. If two people travel together frequently, they will probably want to modify some of the techniques and find their own way of doing things. Many visually impaired people have some residual vision, which facilitates orientation. Many only have problems in the evening, or at night, or in poor lighting. It may therefore depend on the situation whether one wants to be guided or travel independently.
Yes, this seat is number 84. Here, I'll show you the armrest.
Thanks.
And I'm sitting across from you.
Oh, well, that'll give us a chance to have a good chat then. Sighted guide techniques are not difficult. The most important point is collaboration. A sighted person should never push the visually impaired person in front of her or suddenly pull him. Sighted guide techniques should be an equal partnership between two persons travelling together. Often, both parties are unsure of what to do. Therefore, the video opens with some basic advice for both parties. Next, we review the basic sighted guide techniques and then take a look at some specific situations. In some cases, the review includes variations that may be useful if the person being guided has a walking impairment or needs additional support, for example due to dizziness. Advice for the sighted guide. When you encounter someone with a visual impairment, tell him who you are. It can be difficult to recognise someone from the sound of their voice alone.
Hello, John. It's Janie.
Hello.
So you're out enjoying the nice weather?
I'm waiting for the bus, actually. You should not do this.
Hello.
Hello?
I haven't seen you around in ages.
Do I know you? If you want to shake the person's hand, say so.
Let's shake hands, hey?
Yes, sure. Always use the visually impaired person's name when you address him in a group of people. This lets him know that you're talking to him.
Jen, do you have a copy of the minutes?
No, I don't. Thanks. You should not do this.
Do you have a copy of the minutes? Do you have a copy of the minutes? Do you have a copy of the minutes?
Are you speaking to me?
Yes.
Use the word see as you normally would. Oh, can I have a look? So that's how it looks.
If you press the centre, you'll get the speech too.
Right here?
Yes.
Oh, yes, that's really neat. Always announce it when you enter or leave a room. And use your name when you do so. It's not nice to have to guess who is in the room or to continue talking to someone who has, in fact, left. Hi, I'm Peter. You should not do this. Who are you? Don't leave doors half open. And remember to push your chair in under the table. Otherwise, the visually impaired person risks bumping into them.
Oh.
Never leave a totally blind person standing in free space with nothing to hold on to. Instead, guide him to a chair, a wall, or other familiar location.
If I just show you where the seat is, it doesn't have a backrest.
Okay,
John, I'll go get the tickets.
make sure they're return tickets. You should not do this.
Hey, John, I'll just go get some fruit.
Yes, hang on. Where are you going? If you're not sure whether a visually impaired person wants help, ask him. Never just grab him or do things for him. Often, he may prefer to get by on his own.
Do you want some help pouring that coffee?
Sure, that'd be nice. Advice for the visually impaired person. Speak up. Let people know if you would like help, or if you'd rather not. Could someone help me find a seat?
Sure, I'll help you out.
Explain what sort of help you would like. Most people are happy to assist, but many are insecure and afraid of doing something wrong. Jane, would you give me an egg sandwich?
Sure.
If a sighted person simply grabs you in order to guide you somewhere, tell her that you prefer to grip her arm instead.
Let me just help you get up to the bus.
Well, sure, but I think it's best if I just hold on to you instead.
Yes, okay.
Basic techniques. The grip. The main point is that the guide should walk slightly ahead of the visually impaired person to act as a sort of shield. It's the visually impaired person who grips the guide, not the other way around. The guide can let the visually impaired person know where she is by lightly touching the back of his hand. The visually impaired person grips the guide's arm just above the elbow in a pincer grip, with his thumb on the outside of the guide's arm and the 4 other fingers pointing towards the guide's body.
Should we walk together?
Oh yeah, why don't we? Up to the next bus stop.
Yes, exactly.
Excellent, let's go. Getting through a narrow space. The best way to get through a narrow or crowded space is if the visually impaired person steps in behind the guide without letting go of her arm, so that you're walking in single file. The guide can signal an upcoming narrow space by pulling her stretched out grip arm behind her back. This virtually pulls the visually impaired person in behind the guide, and you can walk through in single file. The guide may also verbally mention the narrow space coming up. The visually impaired person steps in behind the guide and stretches out his arm to avoid stepping on her heels. When you're out of the narrow space, the guide pulls her grip arm back to the start position, and you continue as before. If additional support is required, the guide may turn and walk backwards while providing additional support by gripping both the visually impaired person's forearms. Going through a door. The best way to get through a door is for the guide to open the door and walk through first. Then the visually impaired person goes through and closes the door behind him without letting go of the guide. Going up and down stairs. When you get to a set of stairs, the guide positions herself right up against the first step and tells the visually impaired person whether the steps lead up or down. If there's a banister, the guide can show the visually impaired person where it is so that he can grab it with his free hand. The guide steps onto the first step and waits until the visually impaired person has stepped up to the step. Together, you go down the stairs, the guide always one step ahead. When the visually impaired person has done all the steps, the guide pauses. The guide should signal all steps or drop-offs, such as curbs or potholes, by pausing briefly. Taking a seat. If the visually impaired person wants to sit down, the guide shows him the chair by placing her guide hand on the back of the chair from behind, if possible, or on the armrest or seat. The visually impaired person trails the guide's arm to touch the chair. I'm sorry we're a little late, but I hope we'll be okay. Better late than never. You should not do this.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's see if there is a seat for us. Now, if you just sit right here.
Thanks. Thank you.
Good morning.
Car doors. The main point is to show the visually impaired person the door handle. Then he can handle the rest. When the visually impaired person wants to get into a car, the guide places her grip hand on the car door handle. The visually impaired person then trails the guide's arm downwards with his free hand and opens the door. The guide then shows the visually impaired person the car roof. He puts one hand on the roof of the car and the other on top of the car door and gets in. You're not doing the driving now, are you? Oh no, I'm in the passenger seat. Okay then. In this video, we've demonstrated some of the key techniques and approaches for a sighted guide assisting a visually impaired person. If you're frequently in contact with visually impaired persons, we recommend that you download the booklet Walking Together from the website www.visinfo.dk. The booklet provides additional information.